Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pivotal Moments with Lolita. And once again, I'm excited about the conversation today. I have a young man that is doing amazing things in the community, especially for mental health, especially for Black men and mental health and young men. So I am super excited to have this conversation today. So we are going to get right into it. Welcome to Pivotal Moments. Nate, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, just want to, say I'm honored to be on your platform and thank you for inviting me on. So Nate Evans Jr., I'm a mental health advocate, inspirational speaker, best-selling author, youth advocate. Uh, I do a litany of things. I can just go down a list. But the main thing right now is focusing on normalizing love amongst Black men and Black boys, as well as providing insight in regards to mental health and mental health awareness as it pertains to, underserved communities and our youth that are especially within my community, just kind of normalizing the conversation around mental health because that wasn't something that was normalized when I was growing up. And I believe that would have helped me a lot. So I'm just bringing everything I know, bringing it back to the community and to others.
I love it. And that's just so commendable. You know, when we go through certain things, I always feel like the person who can then, turn around and try to make the way a little better for those that come behind them is just a superstar in my opinion. So kudos to all that you're
Thank you.
doing. Yes, yes, yes. So of course, this is pivotal moments. So we are talking about the pivotal moments that we experience. So with what you've shared, what would you like to share with us today as your pivotal moment that you experienced? One of, I'm sure, many.
Yeah. I have a bunch, but I'll keep it short. The main one that comes to mind, and this is what has led me down the path that I'm on now, in regards to sharing my story and my testimony. It was after I would say my second to last college stop. So what a lot of people don't know is I went to 5 different colleges. I don't recommend it, but that was a part of my journey and my story. I went to 9 different schools between first grade and high school. So I bounced around a lot. We grew up in a community where, we were in the poverty. It was violence around, all different type of things. Fast forward, I get in high school and I get a scholarship to play basketball in Memphis, Tennessee for basketball. And this is huge because I'm a first generation high school graduate too, not just college student or college graduate. I'm a first generation high school graduate. My parents, they had me, so they didn't necessarily finish high school. And for me, I was the first one to kind of finish and take that next step. So I was a trailblazer. And I had this dream to play basketball. I seen that as my way out, you know, if I can say that. And it was because this was the main thing that I was exposed to as a kid in regards to outlets for my trauma, for my mental health issues and things like that. So I always thought in the back of my mind that I would play basketball, play professional, get my mom out the hood, all these different things you hear. And I really invested that. I invested my entire life into it. AAU, summer camps, morning workouts, 2 a days, whatever it was, I was doing it to be a better basketball player, to getting that position so I can go play pro, make this money, bring it back home, and, do the thing that I love to do, which is play basketball. I still, play to this day, but for fun. And during that journey of me going from school to school, I was battling traumas from childhood, but also the trauma of losing my pop-up, who was extremely close to me. And he passed away, 2 weeks before he was going to drive me down to Memphis, Tennessee. He had an infection. He had a gangrene infection that was eating away at his intestines. And I remember that was like, the straw that broke the camel's back. And I didn't know how to process that. I didn't have the language to say what was going on. I grew up in a community where if you talked about your feelings, if you express these things, especially as a Black male, you could be disrespected, called out your name, mistreated, all these different things, judged. So I always kept that stuff bottled in growing up. And I got to that point of me going off to my freshman year of college and just kind of having these breakdowns. And the first one was in Memphis. I remember leaving after my first semester of school. Mind you, I'm on a full ride basketball scholarship. And coach, I can't do it. I had to leave. I was having literally just these breakdowns, these mental breakdowns, and I had to leave. I came back home Ended up getting another scholarship to go play basketball in New Mexico. Was there for a year, kind of the same situation happened. Again, I kept pressing forward, trying to push this basketball thing and not really addressing the trauma that I had. So I ended up, like I said, 5 schools later before I even got my bachelor's degree. And it was a transitional point when I got hurt. So I had forfeited all of my eligibility at one point. I was playing at a local community college. I got my associate's degree. And at this point, I've been out of high school for, a few years now, going on 5, 6 years. And I'm like, okay, I can't play basketball for free anymore. I need to make money. So I forfeit all of my eligibility, go to Las Vegas, out there for a week to try out for these overseas teams. And I'm thinking I'm going to get a call back. And I'm like, okay, this is it. I made it. This is it. This is the opportunity. And, unfortunately, I didn't get, any calls back. I didn't get any emails back. And at that time, I was still playing at our local rec center. And I ended up getting hurt and hurting my ankle pretty bad and tearing a bunch of ligaments in my ankle. Had to wear a boot. And that was one of the darkest times of my life, but it made me realize, the thoughts and the things that I was saying to myself, because I had to really sit and kind of harp on those things and understand and process that. And I was blessed to have amazing friends in my circle. One who was my guy, Tony, he started taking me to the gym. And when he took me to the gym with the boot on, mind you, he introduced me to 2 other Black men that looked like me that were older. But we would sit in the locker room and have these conversations about just life, about growth, about success, about losses. It wasn't your typical stuff about sports. It wasn't about, sex. It wasn't about any of those things. It was about real, transparent, and vulnerable conversations. And that was a whole new world to me. And I realized, that I had room to grow and that it was okay to express myself. So the pivot kind of happened there, because after that, obviously I get out the boot, I'm still training, getting stronger, getting better, but my life is starting to change outside of the gym because I understand the power of vulnerability now. So I transition and pivot to writing my story. Writing about my journey going from each school, writing about what I learned at each stop. I believe that was the path that God had me on. It wasn't necessarily to go play pro, but it was to use this gift of basketball that I've been using since I was 2 years old, since they first put a ball in my hand on a Fisher-Price court. But it was to use that to travel, explore, learn these lessons, so I could then turn around to the younger generation and really share this value with them and have experiences that I can share with them, so they don't have to go through those same hurdles, so they can find out what their identity is and not put it into a sport or into a thing. And that was my pivot right there. It was from trying to play pro to, sharing my story and my testimony. And I'm honestly, I'm actually pretty introverted. And people don't know that I'm very introverted. I'm cool with myself. But I went from, playing basketball, being introverted to, speaking to hundreds of students at a time. And that was definitely one of the main pivotal moments for me.
Ooh, wow. I mean, you really shared some amazing things because, first of all, you walked us through some of these things that we go through, right? Like you mentioned, a family member having issues and, and dealing with that and not being able to talk about it and going through different schools and, the disappointments of not having your dreams fulfilled. Like, these were a lot of things that you were going through, and it's things that a lot of us go through, but like you said, not knowing how to talk about it, not feeling safe enough to talk about it. And then I also noted you said I think you said the power of vulnerability. And that is just, that needs to be a hashtag.
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
true, right? Being vulnerable and being open to talk about all the things that you just shared. Those are heavy things, especially as a young person, to go through it and then not feel like you could talk about it.
Yeah. Vulnerability is huge, and it's something I'm blessed to have younger brothers. It's a big gap in between us, so it's kind of crazy. My younger brother who's under me is 27, but we have a younger brother who's 8.
Wow.
And it's this huge gap, and he's incredible. He's like my hero. But it's a blessing because these are lessons that I can teach him while he's young.
Yeah.
Like that the real strength isn't in you trying to act tough or hard or anything like that. It's really in this space of transparency and being vulnerable, because that was difficult for me to do, for me to go ahead and, share certain things about my story or speak up when I feel, bothered or my emotions are kind of rattled in a certain way. That was challenging. It was much easier just to be angry and to act out. It was way easier. I didn't even have to think twice about that. But
Yeah.
sitting there having to think and then get the words and the language to really articulate how I'm feeling, that was a challenge. And I realized that that was where the real strength lied.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's just, it's so much we could say about that because,
Yeah.
even in the work that I do, in the times when it kind of overlaps into the challenges that men have and things like that, the conversations are even different when it comes to, a woman or a girl dealing with emotions and dealing with being depressed or challenged versus a male, especially again, when we talk about Black males. The conversation is different. The way that even as a kid, boys are told toughen up, don't cry. It's all these messages that have been given to Black men, Black males, and so it creates that, like you said, not even knowing how to express it. So I
Yeah.
truly appreciate you sharing that. So now let's move to the next point because, like I said, we can talk probably for so long about this. So when we talk about those pivotal moments, what would you say that you pulled out of that is that central thing of importance, that unchangeable thing for you, that everything must pivot around that? What did you discover from your pivotal moment?
Yeah, that's such a great question. The main thing I discovered was that my identity wasn't in what I did, right? You grow up, especially in my community, you grow up playing a certain sport or doing a certain activity, and that becomes who you are almost. People like, oh, I know, oh, that's Nate from basketball. Oh, yes, yo from ball. And it's like that becomes, so you start to embody that. I've been around the individuals when I was coaching at my old high school, my alma mater, where parents would come in and it's like, oh yeah, I used to put them points up, that's my old records. And it's like they live on that. And it's like, dude, that was 30 years ago. But that's the identity that they have. And for me, I was able to understand that I didn't have to live in that space anymore. That I was able to be free from that I'm I'm an image bearer of God. I'm a believer. So it's like I'm an image bearer, and that meant so much more than what I've seen before. I felt so limited and boxed in. Like, you got to remember, I tried to play basketball at every school I went to before I got my bachelor's degree, just chasing it. And it's like God kept shutting the door, like, nope, you're still not getting it. Nope, you're still not addressing those issues. Nope, we can do this all day. And it's like, man, I didn't really understand that, but I was able to really identify with who I am and be comfortable in that and be at peace with that. And that has allowed me just mental clarity and freedom.
Wow, I love that. And I'm even in my mind taking it to the next level in that we could also think about that when there's maybe these negative things that we've identified ourselves as, right? So, people walk around feeling like, well, I'm, let's say they had a problem with alcoholism. Well, I'm an alcoholic or I'm a high school dropout or whatever these things are. They allow that to become their identity. But what you're saying is, whether it's the baller or something negative, that doesn't have to be who you are. That doesn't have to define, that label doesn't make you who you are. It's simply a label, and labels can be changed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Labels can be changed and they will be changed.
Yeah.
I truly believe that that labels will be changed. And interesting enough, when I was 15 years old, I was stopped in the mall with my nanny. I stopped in the mall and the local press was going around, asking different teenagers like, hey, what are some of your ambitions and goals? And, what are you looking to be when you grow up? And the title that I gave wasn't necessarily a job description. It was like, when they asked me, it was like, what do you want to be? I said, a leader. But I didn't even understand the gravity of what that meant until, I got, a little more mature. But I said that and it was like, oh, okay. And my mom actually, she got me I have the newspaper clipping right here, actually. She took the newspaper clipping and gave it to me a few months ago. I was like, hey, you remember this? And I was like, wow. I really said that, and I was realizing that, again, your identity doesn't have to be under these descriptions of these jobs or these degrees or the accolades or the activities that you do,
Yeah.
right? Your identity, again, for me, is in the one who created you. And from there, you have purpose. I was purposed to be a leader in whatever capacity that looks like. Your purpose to be a leader, your purpose to flourish, right? And when you don't have those identity issues, you aren't easily conformed by society. Because society and media, and so especially social media, they're going to tell you who you are, or who they want you to be. And a lot of people fall into that trap, especially our younger generations. They fall into that, and it's like, nah, that's not who you are. You don't have to be that. Nah.
Wow.
You're a king, you're a queen. You don't have to. You don't got to do that.
Yeah.
And these were the things that I missed in regards to lessons as a kid. So.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That gave me goosies when you told that story. Wow. Oh my goodness. So now switching gears a little bit, and again, as a basketball player, I always like to shift to the adjustment portion because, when the whole pivot theme, when we think about with basketball, obviously to win the game, you have to do more than pivot. You have to do more than dribble, right? It's a combination of a lot of different moves. So when we talk about adjustment, that's usually slightly different than a pivot, right? Pivot is you can think of it as your why. It's this central thing. It's what's important to you. But adjustments often take the tone of something uncomfortable that you have to adapt to. So what would you say? What would you share a time when you had to make the adjustment rather than the pivot?
Yeah. I'll share a more so recent one, and it is the adjustment was in becoming full-time entrepreneur. So that was the adjustment, right? Before it was like, you work these hours for a job and you do this when you get home. But then it's like when you're not going to necessarily clock into a 9 to 5 and you're getting up early, you're just like, okay, all right, what do I do today? And it's like I had to quickly make the adjustment, like, look, this ain't nothing changed. Like, you need to schedule out your day, block off time, cut off distractions, and do these certain things to achieve the goals that you're setting out to achieve and to make the impact that you want to make. And that was one of the main adjustments I had to make because I wasn't very organized. I was super inspirational, I was ambitious, but that doesn't cut it. I had to get more organized and really understand and structure myself in a way where it benefits what I'm trying to do, and it also benefits my relationship with my fiance as well. And making those adjustments as life goes on. And I'll continue to make adjustments as I see fit, and as things evolve. But that was one of the main ones. Like when I first got into it, I'm just like, all right, well, I'm home now. And, I don't know, maybe I should go chill, watch some Netflix. Then I had to catch on, like, okay, that's not the move. Like, no. We still got bills. We still got stuff to do.
Right.
And, from that, I was able to mature in that mindset and really treat this as if I was clocking in somewhere.
Yeah. And that's such a good point, and I know my entrepreneurs, those of us who are trying to transition, into being able to do that. It's a good point, because sometimes I think we think about the entrepreneurial life like, oh, it'll be nice to have my own schedule and sleep in. And it's like, nah, not if you want to stay.
It's a lot of work.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that out. Well, we are coming to the end of our conversation. So Nate, what do you want to leave with our viewers, those who are watching this? What specific message do you want to say to those who are looking at this now?
Yeah, absolutely. First, again, I just want to say thank you for this time. It's been great. I loved every minute of it. And something that I really want to share, and I really want, the listeners to hold on to this, is to never give up on your dreams because someone's waiting on what you're building. And I'll break that down a little bit more. When I wrote my first book, I wrote it on an iPad mini with no keyboard, right? I actually still have the iPad. It got a crack in it. My laptop was broken, but I felt like I needed to get this word out. I needed to get this out of me. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was sloppy, all this stuff. But I was like, I got to get this out. And I got the book out, and there was a young man at the Covenant House, our local Covenant House out here, which is like a homeless shelter for teens, got a hold of my book. and he read the book like 10 times. And I went and spoke at the Covenant House because I have a friend there. I went there, spoke to their men, and did a whole presentation, all this stuff. And he said that I, saved his life essentially through sharing my story and how I, battled with suicidal ideation and my depression and the things I went through. And he didn't feel alone anymore. He felt like, I can relate to this. Someone sharing a part of my story in this. I can bond with this brother. And that's why I say don't give up, because I could have easily stopped once my laptop broke. And I was like, I'm not. I'll wait until next year when I get a new laptop or whatever it was. But I kept pushing and I stayed consistent and I persevered. And that message right there blessed him in a powerful way. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't continue to persevere and stay resilient and work every single day on this thing and get this out of me. So that's why I say, don't give up on your dreams, because someone, even if you never meet them, I had the blessing of actually meeting him, but I know that there is hundreds, maybe thousands of people that I didn't meet that I've been able to impact. And you never know who's waiting on that blessing on the other side, who's, praying for something that you're creating, but you're holding up that blessing because, you're either being lazy or you're doubting yourself or whatever it is. You're allowing people to slow you down and stagnate your process. But someone needs what you are building, not what Nate is building, what you are building. Each and every one of you that are listening, someone needs that. And for me, that was motivation to get that done, because I understood that concept of I'm connected to people that I may never meet. So I have, an obligation, a responsibility to live in excellence and to do this at the highest level.
Wow. I mean, that just is so powerful. I mean, goosies, tears, like all of it's holding back. Like seriously, that's just so encouraging. And I think it's a message that so many of all of us really need to be reminded of. Sometimes we get out there and we're doing great. And then other times we have our moments and we need that reminder, like, you know what? Stop waiting, stop holding back, stop letting all these things get in the way. Go ahead and fulfill it. Someone needs exactly what you have to share. So that is awesome. Well, Nate, thank you so much for joining the conversation today. This has been a treat. I knew it would be, and I'm super excited to continue following you and just seeing the amazing things you're doing. And of course, your information is across the screen right now. So everyone will be able to follow you and keep up with just the amazing things that you're doing for the community and for our culture. And I just wish you continued blessings and success.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate this platform, and I appreciate the audience. I love y'all.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another great Pivotal Moments. I'm sure you are taking away so many wonderful gems, just as I am. And as always, thank you for tuning in and supporting me and tuning in to Pivotal Moments. And we will see you next time on Pivotal Moments with Lolita.